What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Countdown Scouting Network. I'm your host, Joey Garcia, and today we are doing a post-Super Bowl mock draft. So we're going to go through this quickly. Usually I have the mock draft already done, and we just talk through what my thoughts were when I was making the picks. Now we're going to kind of do it real time. So I'm going to go through these in real time, and we are going to talk through it as we go. We won't do trades in this mock draft. I think after the free agency periods go on and we get closer to the draft, that's when we'll start doing some trades. But right now, it doesn't really make sense to make any trades if we don't know what the first stage is going to be, which that first stage is free agency. So let's go ahead and get into it. The Chicago Bears, this pick is very easy for me. I think it's Caleb Williams. I think it's always been Caleb. Unless Justin Fields was going to take a huge step this year, it was always going to be Caleb. I think he was doomed to fail, and that's not his fault. He'll get traded somewhere probably like Atlanta for a second-round pick. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. The Washington Commanders, they did just hire Cliff Kingsbury to be their offensive coordinator. That kind of makes me think he can make Drake May work in that system. But if you look back at what he did with Kyler Murray and kind of what he did with Patrick Mahomes when he had him at Texas Tech and kind of the kinds of quarterbacks that he sculpted around, he liked using Caleb Williams on the move this year at USC when he was helping out as an advisor there. I'm going to go ahead and go with Jaden Daniels, the Heisman Trophy winner from LSU. All right, Patriots are on the clock. I know I'm hearing some stuff about Patriots might trade back. I think that's a smokescreen. I'm pretty sure Gerard Mayo wants to get himself his franchise quarterback, and Drake May's sitting there for him. He's going to love that pick. That's an easy one at 3. Going to 4 with the Arizona Cardinals. I think this might be a trade down spot in real life, but right now it's easy. You take the best player available, the best player probably in the draft, Marvin Harrison Jr., at wide receiver to pair along with Kyler Murray. Now, this is probably the hardest pick so far, and it might be the hardest pick in the top 10 with the Los Angeles Chargers. They got a lot of wide receivers. Like Keenan Allen's going to be 32, I think, and he's been dealing with hamstring injuries. Quentin Johnston, the wide receiver from TCU they took in the first round last year, really isn't panning out, or it's a little bit concerning the trajectory of his stock, really. I don't know if he's going to be able to become a true weapon that they really wanted him to be. And you got Mike Williams going to free agency, I guess he's not going to free agency, but I think they're going to cut him just because he's always injured, and they can get out of that contract pretty easily. So you could always go wide receiver here. It'd be nice to get them another defensive lineman to kind of shore up that inside, or even edge rusher. Khalil Mack's getting older. Joey Bosa as well is getting older. It'd be nice to have someone get in the works, but I don't really like any of those guys this high. You could go with a corner. Again, don't really like this corner class this much. I'm going to go with Brock Bowers. We talked about them needing a receiving weapon. I think Brock Bowers can do that, and they can end up holding on to Mike Williams if they want to. It doesn't push Josh Palmer out of the rotation or Keenan Allen, who's getting older. So I like that a lot. Going to New York, they need some offensive line help to hold up for Daniel Jones. I don't think they're going for a quarterback right now. Maybe if Drake May or Jaden Daniels were still here. So I'm thinking wide receiver. I'm thinking tackle. Evan Neal's there. Do you want to give up on Evan Neal yet? I don't think so. I'm going to go ahead and go with my wide receiver 2, which is Rome Odunze. So that's what we'll go with here. Next, we're going to the Tennessee Titans. They're kind of in that same boat. They got Peter Skoronski playing that left guard. You can push him out the tackle if you need him to. I know they have Nicholas Petit-Frere from Ohio State playing that right tackle. He's been doing okay. Maybe you replace him, but Joe Alt's sitting on the board. You also could get another weapon. You got Hopkins still, I believe. Treylon Burks is starting to come into his own if he's not injured. Kyle Phillips is always injured, but he's a nice slot role. So maybe you stay away from wide receiver and go with probably a top 3 guy in this draft, I think. with Joe Alt. He's a proven left tackle. He's good in the run game. He's pretty decent in the pass game. So he's a real all-around left tackle, can play zone scheme, gap scheme. Perfect guy. Let's give him them. With this pick, with all the quarterbacks gone, yeah, they could go with a Michael Penix. They could go with a Bo Nix, maybe a J.J. McCarthy. But I feel like they might spend a second-round pick and get Justin Fields on a one-year deal, see if they can do something with that. So we're not going to go quarterback here. I don't really think they need another weapon. They've got some guys, and later on in the draft, because they got Drake London, they have Kyle Pitts, so later on in the draft, you can get them some weapons. Right here, for me, it's going to be edge rusher. I think they get their pick of edge rusher, and I think it only makes sense that it's Dallas Turner. I like Leatu better, and Jared Verse is a guy that's really an all-around, can play the run, can play the pass, but I think Dallas Turner's explosive. He's exciting. He's someone that can just get after the pass. He's athletic, and they can scope him into what they want. So let's go Dallas Turner here at 8. Going to number 9 with Chicago. They're back on the clock. They got Caleb Williams. Let's go ahead and get Caleb Williams a rookie to build around. They got DJ Moore to be their true number 1, but then you get Malik Neighbors in there, who's a physical, athletic, run after catch guy. He's kind of like DJ Moore, but it's not a bad thing if you have 2 DJ Moores on the field at the same time. So I think that's what I want to go with. You can always go with the number 1 corner. Maybe you re-sign Jalen Johnson. Don't have to worry about that. Yeah, let's go with Malik Neighbors. He can't last longer than this, right? The New York Jets, that's going to be an easy one for me as well. Let's get him a left tackle so Aaron Rodgers can play more than 4 snaps in the season this next year. All right, that was an easy pick with the Vikings. Do they re-sign Kirk Cousins? I think they do. It sounds like they're going to. And even if they do, maybe they get someone behind him. He is 34 years old, coming off of, I think, an Achilles tear, right? So maybe they go after a quarterback. Still kind of feel like it might be a little too early. Unless you're a desperate team. They're not desperate. They could go ahead and get defensive line or a DB. I think those are really the 2 options we're looking at right here. I mean, you could get Fuaga and put him in at guard. I think that's a waste of Fuaga. I'm going to go with Johnny Newton. He's the most explosive, true defensive tackle. I think he can play the run and the pass, and he's also got enough burst, but also size where he can hold his gap. So I think that's an exciting pick. I know some other people might want Byron Murphy from Texas there. I think Byron Murphy's not. I think he's more of just a go after the quarterback, third down kind of defensive tackle, which is great. I think he's a first-round pick. I like Newton has the upside that Byron Murphy has, but he also has more of a higher floor where he can play the run and the pass. So we're going to pass on that. This is a team, they've already said they're going to trade Russell Wilson. So they don't have a quarterback unless they think Jarrett Stidham's the answer. I don't think they do. I think they think, and I also agree, Jarrett Stidham's a nice QB2, a nice backup quarterback. So I think this is quarterback here, because if they don't get one here, they're looking in the second round, and I keep hearing that J.J. McCarthy's going to be a first-round pick, which would mean that they would not have – they'd be going after like a Spencer Rattler or a Michael Pratt, which both of those guys are good. But if you got your pick of the litter right here, I think let's go with a guy that's got pocket accuracy, can make all the throws, Michael Penix. If his knees hold up in the draft process, I don't think he makes it out of the top 15. I really don't. I don't think he makes it out of the top 15. Let's see. We've got the Raiders now. Las Vegas Raiders at 13. They're a team that kind of gets to rebuild what they want. Aiden O'Connell played okay this year. Do you want to go after one of these quarterbacks? If you like one of them, sure. If you like Bo Nix, if you like J.J. McCarthy, go after him. If not, you can get the fundamental positions, corner, safety, defensive line, offensive line. Talise Fuaga is sitting right here. Surprised he's still sitting here, but he is. You could take him. You could take Cooper DeJean. Nate Wiggins is another one. Terrion Arnold, who's probably the one that I would take right here. But I think they're going to go quarterback. From what I keep hearing, which might be smokescreens, they're looking to trade up for one of these quarterbacks. It's not a tradable mock draft right now, so we're not going to trade up. Instead, Bo Nix is sitting there. I like Bo Nix under pressure. He doesn't have elite accuracy, but he can move well enough. He's got good enough size. He can, he's not deficient in the intermediate throws or deep throws. His arm's okay. He's a guy that can be adequate at every level. I kind of feel, I don't want to just say Baker Mayfield for him, but I kind of have that same vibe where he's not afraid to make any throw, and he's got enough arm strength, enough intermediate passing, enough touch, deep ball accuracy. He's not elite at any of those, but he's got enough, and he can move a little bit. So I like that pick. And I think he deserves it. He's improved every single year since leaving Auburn, and I hope it continues in the NFL. All right, we have Derek Carr and the Saints. There's been reports that they are going to restructure Derek Carr's contract, and that kind of is going to make it where they can't get out of it for at least the next 2 years. So I don't see them going after a quarterback, especially with 4. I think we've already had 4 go, maybe 5 go. So, yeah, we've had 5 quarterbacks go. So I don't think they'll grab one. Instead, I'm probably looking at, is Fuaga the pick here? If not, maybe you go after one of these edge rushers. Jared Verse is still on the board. You could even go with Byron Murphy on the interior of the defensive line. I think those are like the big 3 positions. But again, there's still corners on the board. I'm going to go with Fuaga. I know they got Ryan Ramczyk on the right side at right tackle. I think you can get out of that contract, but he's still playing really well. So maybe I'm hearing a lot of NFL scouts saying that they think Fuaga can move over to the left side and be adequate. Do you really want to do that? I don't know. Do you maybe want to put him in at left guard at the beginning and have Penning still play out there at left tackle? Maybe. Or would you rather move Penning on the inside and let Fuaga kind of take some lumps at left tackle right now? I don't know. I think there's some moves that you can make here, but I don't think Trevor Penning's the answer. I think he needs to move inside to guard. He's a great run blocker. He's physical, but he's not there yet. Maybe he just needs a little bit more time on the inside. I'm going to take Fuaga. I don't think Fuaga needs to get out of the top 15, and I don't think he will. All right, so let's go to Indy. We got Indianapolis Colts here. They've got their quarterback. They've got some weapons. I'm not really looking at reaching on one of these weapons here. I'm kind of liking one of these corners. I am. Like, you have Byron Murphy for interior defensive line would be nice. Offensive line, I don't really like J.C. Latham up here. Jackson Powers Johnson is a nice pick here, I think. For the next, 7 picks, Jackson Powers Johnson, the center from Oregon, is a nice pick. Amarius Mims, maybe. I'm going to go with Terrion Arnold. I think with this defensive scheme, he can move around a little bit. You think of kind of what Jalen Ramsey does. And obviously not to that extent. I'm not saying he's Jalen Ramsey, who's a top 2 corner and has been for the last 10 years or last 7 years. Probably going to be a Hall of Famer. I'm not saying he's going to be that, but you can move him around, match him up on wide receiver ones, whether playing in the slot or on the outside. Maybe move him into a robber role for a little bit. He can play all that stuff. He played safety for a little bit at Alabama. So he's an athletic guy. He's got the IQ for it, the instincts. I think this is my corner one. It has to be. So this is who I'm taking here. That's a steal, I think. So maybe we go Jackson Powers Johnson here. They could always go edge. Jared Verse is still sitting there. I really like Jared Verse at this pick. That's the kind of edge rusher they go for. Someone that can, be physical at the line of scrimmage and hold up in the run as well. It's I think if they're going to go with an edge rusher and Jared Verse isn't available, I don't think they go Latu. I think they would wait and go Braylon Trice. That's kind of what I would think. I'm going to go Jared Verse, though. I am. That one kind of came easily. Again, right here, you can get a center in Jackson Powers Johnson. I think they really are struggling in the defensive backfield, though. So we got some corners on here. Oh, Quinyon Mitchell is there. I was worried Quinyon was just going to be a zone guy because at Toledo he didn't do much press coverage, but he was really, really good in zone. And then he went to the Senior Bowl, and all he did was press coverage. And in one-on-one drills, when the corner is set up to fail against these wide receivers, just because that's how the drill's set up. You're not supposed to win. Maybe 30% of the time you'll win as a defensive back in those drills, but it seemed like he was winning more like 60% of the time. Against really good route runners, too. Ricky Pearsall was looking good. Roman Wilson from Michigan was running out there. So, I'm excited about a guy like Quinyon Mitchell. I think the ceiling for him is out. I mean, I don't know what ceiling it is for him. Multi All-Pro Hall of Famer is his ceiling, but he is still very, very raw, where his floor could be that he's not getting on the field for the next couple years. He could flame out like that. But as CB2 for Jacksonville, who's looking for a guy and has been looking for a guy since they traded away Jalen Ramsey, I think this is a big swing, someone that they can really get excited about. All right, if Talise Fuaga was still here, this is his floor. Fuaga is not getting past 18, 100%. I think they have to go right tackle. They have to. And we got J.C. Latham. We got Amarius Mims here. People keep telling me Latham is not getting outside the top 10. I'm not that big of a Latham fan. I kind of like Amarius Mims a little bit more. I'm going to go with Latham, though. I'm just going to go with what people are telling me. Let's go with Latham. Let's move on. All right, so the Los Angeles Rams. This is a borderline team, but they have a lot of spots that they need to fill. Offensive line, defensive backfield. Really, anywhere on the defense is great for them. And, of course, offensive line. But every team's looking for offensive linemen. So, what if they use this first-round pick to go get a quarterback that has all the tools to replace Stafford in about 2 years? Someone that doesn't have to play yet, but can sit behind and learn the system. I think J.J. McCarthy here is the spot. Yeah, I know it says he's ranked 52 and his ADP is 41 and we're taking him at 19. I like this pick. You're going to let him sit for a couple years. That's the Patrick Mahomes sitting behind Alex Smith type thing. That's what we don't do anymore. The Aaron Rodgers sitting behind Brett Favre. This is the way to do it, I think. And J.J. McCarthy has all the tools. I think he needs to learn to, break down the defense a little bit quicker and let the game slow down for him. So let him sit in Las Vegas or Los Angeles and learn behind Sean McVay, or learn from Sean McVay behind Matthew Stafford. I think that's perfect. All right, this is the floor for Jackson Powers Johnson. I was really, really looking forward to getting like a Cooper DeJean or a Nate Wiggins off here to pair with Joey Porter Jr. that they got last year. It's a pretty deep corner class. Maybe the second round they can get a corner. I can't let Jackson Powers Johnson fall any further than this. So we'll go ahead and take the center from Oregon. Going to the Dolphins pick right now. It says they need a tight end. All the offensive line. They could use an edge rusher as well. I think this is a fairly easy one for me. I'm going to go with a tackle. They have Austin Jackson at right tackle, who they just re-signed. So Amarius Mims, unless you're going to move him to the left side, isn't going to work. I know Teron Armstead, their left tackle, who isn't really healthy anyways, has been talking about he might retire this year. So let's get a plug-and-play guy. Jordan Morgan from Arizona. It's a guy that runs that wide zone scheme at Arizona. He's a left tackle. He's an elite pass blocker. His pass block grade's incredible. And he can do enough in the run. If Teron Armstead ends up staying, you can move him inside to left guard. I think he'd be an adequate guard. I don't know what his arm length is going to be, but I think he's an adequate guard. You can put him in there for a year until Teron Armstead is done. or until Teron Armstead gets injured. So we'll go ahead and do that. With Philly. I honestly still think, I know someone on our last mock draft for Philly was saying that they don't really need safety, and I think they don't fully need safety. I mean, there's some guys that were on 1-year contracts that are leaving a little bit. I want to be able to move like Reed Blankenship, the guy from Middle Tennessee State. Let him move around in that defense a little more. I think he's a dynamic athlete that can move. You got Sidney Brown as well who can move around. So giving them a safety at the back end of the first round wasn't to replace one of those guys, but a lot of defenses are going to 3 safety sets as they're, around 50% of the time they've got 3 safeties on the field. They go to a nickel set. It's not always a corner playing that slot. Sometimes it's a safety so they can move and disguise some things. So, and also support the run. So that's why I was doing that. I still think defensive back is the right play. With all these corners on the board, I'm going to go corner because, again, linebacker is not really what they worth the first round pick, in my opinion, right here. Offensive line, because I know they like to think ahead. Offensive line's not really it right now. I mean, you could get a Maris Mims, and then when Lane Johnson retires in a year or two, you put him in there. You can, I mean, I don't know. I don't think that's really it. Maybe Tyler Guyton. I'm really thinking more of a corner. I like Cooper DeJean, and he supports the run. But I think with a team like them, where, again, they don't fully need any defensive backs, it's just something that it'd be nice to have, an extra one, maybe a developmental piece. Ennis Rakestraw Jr., is a guy that we haven't really talked about that much on this channel. Super raw, but athletic prospect. He likes to come down and hit. I think this is a guy who they can really develop into being a Pro Bowler. So, again, I like Nate Wiggins. I like Cooper DeJean. I think I have Cooper DeJean as my cornerback 3 and Nate Wiggins as my cornerback 4. But it's right now it's just scheme fits. So I'm just kind of rolling with scheme fits. That's why they haven't come off the board yet. Right, Houston. You can get. I'm thinking defense for this. You have a defensive head coach. Last year they got an edge rusher who won Defensive Rookie of the Year. They got a quarterback. They got wide receivers. You could go edge rusher again with Latu, just because I know Jonathan Grenard is a free agent. Maybe you re-sign him and have Latu as well, and have like a 3-man rotation would be nice, so no one's getting tired. I kind of like that, unless something else pops. Yeah, there we go. Byron Murphy. Yeah, I don't even have to think really twice about that. That's another guy that this defensive head coach is going to love, using a guy like Will Anderson Jr. and Byron Murphy. When you've got 3rd and long, and you have Derek Stingley at cornerback, you've got Jalen Petrie at safety, you've got Byron Murphy who's going to wreak havoc in the middle of the defense, and then you have Will Anderson Jr. on the edge. That's a nightmare for offenses, and this defensive coordinator, head coach, is going to have a fun time with that. That's a great pick. That might be my favorite fit past Tyrion Arnold at 15. I think that might be my favorite fit so far. Let's go to Dallas. I think corner's good. I really think, I was talking to a guy that I'm going to have on the podcast here in about 2 months when we do another Dallas Central mock draft, who's my friend, who's a Dallas fan. He was saying that they're in need of offensive line. So I think we're going to look at some offensive line. There's, some of their tackles are retiring or leaving in free agency. You got a Marius Mims. But I think Tyler Guyton, who's a guy who popped this year. You could tell his physical traits. He's a big guy, athletic guy, plays right tackle for Oklahoma. But then at the Senior Bowl, he kind of dominated in the Senior Bowl. So we'll go ahead and get that riser going in here. Green Bay. So a name that I've been hearing for Green Bay So I think we're going to do it. A name I've been hearing is Graham Barton. See, Troy Fano is a nice one as well because that's a guy that can play left tackle. He can play right. I guess he can't really play right tackle, but I think he can play left tackle. He can play any of the guard spots as well. But they're talking about Graham Barton as a guy that can play all 5 spots. And that just seems like a guy that Green Bay would go after. I keep hearing Green Bay's liking Graham Barton, and that's their pick. So I think that's who we're going with. Let's do that. All right, pick 26. We got Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the clock. They could go with a lot of guys. My 2 picks in this range for them would be one of these cornerbacks or Latu. So I'm looking at one of these cornerbacks or Latu. I think Shaq Barrett's probably gone, so I'm leaning Latu. I can't believe Latu's down this far. Honestly, I might have to just put him on here. Because, I mean, Cooper DeJean's nice. Nate Wiggins. I think they probably go Cooper DeJean out of all these guys. Kool-Aid McKinstry's still here. Yeah, I mean, there's so many. I'm gonna go Latu though. I can't let Latu fall. I think he's got small arms, but he's got a great pass rush plan. He reminds me of a T.J. Watt, where he's explosive enough, but maybe he's not as athletic as everyone's wanting him to be. Maybe his arms are slightly smaller, but he knows what he needs to do, and he combos these moves together. And kind of counters off of them later on in the game. He's one of those guys that just kind of already has it planned out in his head, and he's playing chess with these tackles that, honestly, at the Pac-12 level, there were some good tackles at the Pac-12, and they weren't ready for it this year against him. So he's looked really, really good. I can't see him falling past 26 unless his medicals are bad. All right, let's go with not Carolina. The Arizona Cardinals, who their first pick was Marvin Harrison. Easy. All right, so they don't really need another wide receiver. They've got Marquise Hollywood Brown. We can go offensive line. We could go defensive line. With their, I think it'd be more defensive line or corner, and we've got corners here. Braylon Trice isn't a bad pick there. I think I'd probably go Braswell over him just because of their scheme. Darius Robinson from Missouri is a riser, and I mean he's probably a guy that would play like that 5 technique in here. I'm gonna go Cooper DeJean. He's a safety. He's an outside cornerback. He can play the slot. I think he's going to stick at outside cornerback. But if you needed him to come play the slot a little bit, he can play the slot. He loves to hit. He can play a little bit of safety, but this is a dude that's going to play outside corner primarily. You can move him around a little bit, but primarily as an outside corner that'll come down and hit and tackle in the run game. So let's give him Cooper DeJean. He deserves to be a first-round pick. Buffalo, we've been giving him Keon Coleman from Florida State, the jump ball receiver. But Brian Thomas is there, who I think is a better deep threat. His contested catch isn't as good. I think he does a little bit more after catch, though. Yeah, let's go with Brian Thomas Jr. from LSU. All right, pick 29 out of 32. We have the Lions. So let's find someone that will eat some kneecaps. Amaris Mims, no, you've got Decker and you have Penei Sewell playing you got Sewell playing the right tackle spot, so you don't need that. Braylon Trice, Nate Wiggins tries to tackle. He can't really tackle that well, though. If Cooper DeJean was here, this is Cooper DeJean's spot. Is it Kool-Aid? Yeah. I think it's Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid can tackle. He's not someone that's going to come and bust a running back in the mouth or bust someone on a screen, but he's adequate in the run game. If someone's running on the outside, he'll wrap up. So, and he's a guy that can cover man and zone. I think he's slightly better zone. He's probably a guy that you want to play off coverage instead of press for the most part. Maybe a guy that can be, a little bit of man, but mostly like a cover three corner. I think that's kind of going to be his bread and butter. Let's go with Baltimore. Baltimore. Get a wide receiver for him. I would love a defensive lineman here. That is what, Braylon Trice maybe? Troy Franklin, Braylon Trice. That's kind of the two I'm thinking. We could get him a corner like Nate Wiggins. And I think Nate Wiggins deserves to come off the board here. But I really would love to get Lamar Jackson a deep threat. Troy Franklin's a deep threat. He makes a lot of moves after the catch. He's not going to take away from what Zay Flowers does, though. Or what Rashad Bateman does. He can do kind of his own thing, kind of be, what they use Tylan Wallace for a little bit. Who's the other guy they have? They got another wide receiver there that they use for deep threat, but that's okay. Troy Franklin's really good. So I'm going to give them Troy Franklin. Pick 31. Ooh, you can go with an offensive lineman. You love Marius Mims here, right? I don't know if he can move well enough for a wide zone scheme. That's kind of my worry. He's a big boy. He can move, but is he going to be able to move well enough for them to put him in a wide zone at right tackle? They need a right tackle. He is a guy who could play guard for them. I think he can move to right guard, and he moves well enough to be a guard. But he's a guy that hasn't played enough. Even this last year, he didn't play the full season. So I'm out on that. Let's go ahead and get them a corner. Let's go and get him Nate Wiggins, because I'm afraid Nate Wiggins isn't going to come off the board in the first round, and he deserves it. So, the Chiefs. It's kind of everyone wants a wide receiver. I think wide receiver for the back-to-back champs would solidify them, make it easier for them to win it 3 times. But Darius Robinson would also be very exciting. I'm going to go wide receiver. I am going to go with what we wanted Sky Moore to be, what we wanted Kadarius Toney to be, what Mecole Hardman has kind of had to be in that slot role is an underneath guy who's not Travis Kelce. Let's get him Ladd McConkey. They have Rashee Rice, who's more of a jump ball guy. He can be that deep threat. I want to get Ladd McConkey for him. All right. So this is the mock draft. Let them kind of load it up. But I like this mock draft, man. So we'll go through it really quickly. Chicago at 1 takes Caleb Williams, quarterback USC. Washington at 2 takes LSU quarterback Jaden Daniels. At number 3, the Patriots take Drake May, quarterback from North Carolina. Number 4, the first wide receiver off the board is Marvin Harrison Jr. from Ohio State. At number 5, Brock Bowers, the first tight end, comes off the board to the Chargers. New York Giants take Rome Odunze from Washington. Number 7, the Tennessee Titans take Joe Alt, tackle. Number 8, we've got the Atlanta Falcons, who take Dallas Turner, edge from Alabama. Malik Neighbors, wide receiver from LSU, goes off the board at 9 to pair up with Caleb Williams with the Chicago Bears. The New York Jets take a left tackle to block for Aaron Rodgers with Olu Fashanu. At 11, the Minnesota Vikings take Johnny Newton, defensive lineman from Illinois. At 12, Michael Penix comes off the board to replace Russell Wilson. Following him is another quarterback with Bo Nix from Oregon to go to the Raiders. The Saints take Talise Fuaga to probably take over for Penning at left tackle. Terrion Arnold, cornerback from Alabama, goes to the Indianapolis Colts to kind of be a defensive playmaker all around that defense, a move piece for them. Jared Verse, defensive end, edge rusher from Florida State, goes to the Seattle Seahawks. Then going to 17, Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo, the cornerback, goes to Jacksonville Jaguars. J.C. Latham, right tackle from Alabama, goes to the Bengals. J.J. McCarthy comes off the board to sit behind Matthew Stafford with the Rams. Jackson Powers Johnson, center from Oregon, goes to the Steelers at 20. At 21, we have Miami Dolphins taking Jordan Morgan, left tackle from Arizona. Enos Rakestraw Jr., the cornerback from Missouri, goes off the board at 22 to the Philadelphia Eagles. Byron Murphy II goes off the board to Houston at 23. Tackle Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma goes off the board at 24 to the Cowboys. The Packers take Graham Barton, the really just full offensive line from Duke. Edge rusher Latu ends up falling to 26, where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers end up taking him. Cooper DeJean, cornerback out of Iowa, goes to the Arizona Cardinals at 27. At 28, we have the Buffalo Bills, and we did not take Keon Coleman like we've been taking. Instead, we take Brian Thomas Jr., the wide receiver out of LSU. The Lions at 29 take Kool-Aid McKinstry. The Baltimore Ravens at 30 take wide receiver Troy Franklin out of Oregon. At 31, San Francisco takes Nate Wiggins, cornerback from Clemson. And then at 32, Ladd McConkey, wide receiver out of Georgia, goes to the back-to-back defending Super Bowl champions, Kansas City Chiefs. So that is our mock draft today. Continuing this week, we are going to continue our position breakdown series. So we'll do wide receivers and tight ends this week, and then we'll move into the offensive line and then defense as we go on. But appreciate you guys stopping by and watching this. If you enjoyed, go ahead and leave a like button and subscribe. If you have any questions or you disagree with any of my picks on this, go ahead and put them down in the comment section. I like talking to you guys about that because this is not an exact science. These are just kind of theories at this point. So appreciate you guys stopping by one more time. Have a great day. I'll see you guys later. Peace.